Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster and I am the host of the program. Today I have an exciting program, and I guess you say he says that every time he's on, but today truly it is an exciting program. I know that many of you watch many of the programs on television which feature the president and what happens when the president arrives in any jurisdictions, president at the White House, president visiting a community. You watch the news and you see President Barack Obama in different places, in different cities, in different countries, speaking at different events. And you wonder who those persons are who are near him and have a little microphone, earphone in their ear, and what are they doing? Well, today I have a guest who is going to be able to discuss that with us. One other thing I'd say before I introduce my guest today is when the president arrives at a place, everything stops on land, sea, and air. Airplanes don't fly, his motorcade comes, traffic stops, and if he's near water, there are things that are taking place in the water which you may not find out about today, but I can assure you are happening. Today, I am truly delighted to have both a friend and a colleague, Stephen Ricciardi, who was the former special agent in charge for the United States Secret Service here in the Boston region. Steve, welcome to Community Forum.
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me, Joe.
Well, we talked about this for some time. We talked about it while you served in the capacity as a special agent in charge here in the Boston region. But I'm glad that we're able to do it. I know you've moved on now to the private sector, which is the government's loss, but the private sector's gain.
Thanks.
But before I will give you, introduce you to the, talk a little bit more about this, and I didn't follow the rules here, so I'm going to have to follow the rules myself because I didn't turn off my phone, and if Roy Cohen hears my phone go off, I am in trouble. So let me take care of that bit of business. It's just simply, I want to introduce you to our audience, and so just very briefly, Stephen Ricciardi, was the former special agent in charge. He was appointed as a special agent in the Boston field office in August of 2003. And the Boston field office incorporates the New England states, and there are offices in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. He was responsible for the district day-to-day management of operational and jurisdictional mandates within the Boston district. Former special agent in charge Ricciardi was also responsible for maintaining liaison and partnerships with the district area federal and law enforcement, and creating strategic alliances with academic and business entities in an effort to accomplish the investigative and protective goals of the Secret Service. Some of his previous assignments were just as stellar, which includes an inspector with the Inspection Division for the Washington, D.C., the assistant special agent in charge for President William Clinton's Protective Division, and also for Senator Hillary Clinton's Protective Detail in Washington, and the assistant to the special agent in charge for the Presidential Protective Division, First Lady's Protective Detail in Washington, D.C. He has had several other assignments, which if I read them all, I'll be talking to you and saying, well, have a good day, everybody. So let me just go and just mention a few more, which I think are quite relevant so you have a sense of the guest that is here today. He was a principal federal officer at the Department of Homeland Security during the 2004 Democratic National Convention, which was held here in Boston, as you know. And in 2013, he coordinated the Secret Service investigative response during the Boston Marathon bombing. And as you know, this program is airing today on the 16th, and this program will be aired probably at times during the running of the marathon next week. And we've had a lot of memorials and in memoriams here in Boston And I can recall seeing you and others while I was away on vacation last year, so ably handle and get a positive result for that investigation. And additionally, as a result of his great work there, he was appointed the coordinator by the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to give federal support during the 4th of July celebration here in Boston. And it can go on and on. He's been a police officer. He has local roots here, as well in our neighboring state in Newport, Rhode Island. He's just a great person. So Steve, again, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
I think what will be helpful is to tell folks what the U.S. Secret Service does, and to tell them the bit that you and I have talked about, that everyone thinks is just protective service side of the Secret Service.
There's more to
it's
it.
more than that. So
absolutely.
Why don't you enlighten us?
You know, what I was thinking about, maybe just starting a little bit about the history.
Yes.
Just a bit about it. I mean, it's rather than to bore you, but the Secret Service was created primarily to combat counterfeiting of U.S. currency back in 1865. Particularly specifically on April 14th, President Lincoln, before he went to Ford's Theater, authorized the creation of the Secret Service to combat counterfeiting of U.S. currency. During that time, after the Civil War, there were a lot of banknotes, a lot of counterfeit banknotes floating around out there, quite a bit, and it was creating havoc with the economy. And Mr. Lincoln knew that he needed to do something in order to combat this. So he created he authorized a small creation of about 10 operatives of the Secret Service. And then it took about 10 years to get counterfeiting under control, but they managed to do that. And so we didn't start protecting presidents until when President McKinley was assassinated. In Buffalo, New York, we started protecting President Roosevelt, immediately following that horrific incident. From there, we were the only investigative federal agency for a while before the FBI, so we were tasked with a lot of different federal investigations, land violations, tax violations, all sorts of different things, until the creation of other specific federal agencies were created to combat some of those issues. So we were started primarily as an investigative agency, and then kind of morphed into the protection end of it. And today, the Secret Service is about 7,000 folks. That's civilian and agent personnel and support personnel. And we investigate now. It's a dual mission. The Secret Service is a dual mission: criminal investigations and obviously the protection. With the protection side of the house, we obviously protect the president, the vice president, and their families, former presidents and former first ladies. That is all at the request of law. That is not our request. That is a legal type. We're bound legally to do that through statutes. Also former presidents I mentioned, but foreign heads of state. When a foreign head of state comes to the Boston area or wherever domestically, the Secret Service is tasked with protecting that head of state. It has to be a head of state, so designated as a head of state. So those are some of the protection side of that we involve. We also investigate all the threats that are associated to our protectees, and we thoroughly investigate those. Even if it's just something that you wouldn't think is significant, we will thoroughly investigate those cases in an effort to see if there is a threat.
So when those threats come in and it involves any of those protectees, president, first lady, children, et cetera, it's not the FBI, it's the Secret Service that does the investigation. I think most people believe it's the FBI.
No, we do those investigations. As well as we still investigate counterfeiting of U.S. currency. On the investigative side of the house, we also investigate electronic crimes, bank fraud, credit card fraud, network intrusions electronically into businesses and things when we're alerted to those. We had quite a huge case in the Boston area that it was actually a global case, but the prosecution was initiated here with regard to the TJX case with 44 million access devices being compromised out of the TJX computers that are housed here in Framingham in the area, and that's why we were tasked with the investigation. We ended up making a dozen arrests and sending folks to jail and recovering quite a bit of money and stuff, and trying to get those back, and did get those back to a lot of the victims, but certainly not all. So we've had some good cases as an agency in the Boston area as well here too.
Well, I know there are some questions or inquiries that I make may be off limit, and that's fine if
okay.
we haven't scripted those,
No,
and I know,
no.
and so I'm just going to ask them out of curiosity,
Sure.
not so much in order to infringe upon what your responsibilities and obligations are.
Right.
But you had mentioned that the protectees are entitled to Secret Service protection.
Correct.
Are you able to talk about how long each categories of those of the persons you protect? For instance, I know the former presidents have it for life.
That's right. Now,
okay. Now I don't know in terms of, and I presume the First Lady as well, but
has it for life.
But how about the children?
So the children, at some point in time, as they get older, 18 years old, I believe, they lose their Secret Service protection.
Okay.
So. And again, it's all statutory by law. There was a time several years ago that Congress did put a 10-year limit on the protection, but I think it was reviewed a few years back, and it was considered that the president and the former first ladies should have it for their life. Yeah. So,
well, I'm certain
as it was prior to that.
I'm certain that some things triggered that. One, the shooting of Ronald Reagan while he was in office probably triggered some of that. And then the increased terrorism and threats that have occurred, I'm sure that
I'm sure that could have impacted
that encouraged some of it.
Of course.
Now, while you were talking about the history of the Secret Service, I know that the Secret Service is now under Homeland Security.
That's right.
But previously was under Treasury.
That's right.
Has that had any type of shift in the focus of the responsibilities of the Secret Service?
Yeah, I think it has a bit. We were with Department of Treasury for a long time, over 127 years, I believe, something along those lines. And so in 2003, following the 9/11 bombings and the incident that occurred there in New York and in D.C., in Pennsylvania, the president had decided to create a new agency, the Department of Homeland Security, and it was decided that we should be part of that, and it was, which increased a lot of our, or some of our responsibilities, to include having a more robust role in national special security events. You'd mentioned those before in my background, the conventions, the DNC and the RNC, and the State of the Union address, and something that is designated as a national special security event by the Secretary of Homeland Security requires the Secret Service to work on a security plan and implement that plan. But we can't do anything ourselves. I mean, we partner with so many different agencies on what we do. For instance, the protection of the president. We partner with the state police, the local police, other federal agencies, in an effort to protect him and his family and our other protectees. So we're very collaborative as an agency, and we partner quite a bit, and we've been doing that for many, many years. It's just the nature of our mission. You can't do things in a bubble. You have to be able to rely on other folks' expertise. Massachusetts State Police, for instance, and the Boston Police and the Cambridge Police, we work quite a bit with them. And they all have certain expertise, and they know their community even better than we do. And so their contributions to the protection is huge, and we take that very seriously, and we bring them to the table as a partner, with the protection and quite frankly with the investigations too. I mean, in Boston, there's an electronic crimes task force, and you know what? It doesn't just have Secret Service agents on it. It has other federal agencies. It has state police. It has Boston Police and Cambridge Police, and quite frankly, many of the outlying police departments are connected to that task force too, in an effort to collaboratively look and investigate electronic crimes. Again, this thing is a global problem. It's always it is. It's nothing Boston-centric or anything like that, or some other domestically centric type thing. It is global, and we have some resources globally, and we're able to utilize those in those type investigations.
What just to comment on that, because historically there has always been, at least stated, and particularly with my involvement in the Boston area, used to always say the squabbles between law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and we're on the anniversary of the tragedies which
Yes.
occurred at the Boston Marathon
Yes.
last year, and we're in that season presently. It was, and I was in Hawaii, in fact, and
Right.
I can remember seeing you and
Right.
Davis and the
Right.
mayor,
Right.
and the Somerville police and the Boston police and the state police and the
Right.
FBI all working together.
And they
so
were,
it
quite
evidenced
frankly.
that what
Yeah.
you're just saying, that collaboration that took
Yeah.
place, which garnered us a very favorable result in,
Sure.
in capturing the perpetrators. So I mean, I applaud that effort. It appears that that's continued, and certainly from the Boston perspective, there were certain persons who initiated that many years ago, and I'm glad that having you here as the special agent in charge fostered that as well.
Thanks. Thank you.
But I want to bring it back to, again, I want to bring back to you personally.
Sure.
How did Steve decide to become a Secret Service agent? I mean, I remember there used to be a program on. I can almost see the theme, Secret Service Man. I think it was the name of the theme song.
Right.
But what prompted you to go into the service?
I can say for sure that I think I was in the middle of high school or something, and I always said, I'd like to be in law enforcement. And so I did not know what part of law enforcement or anything like that. And then I started to seriously think about it even more. And so for me, it was start, I wanted to get a college degree in administration of justice. So I decided to do that, and also decided to go in the Marine Corps Reserves, and kind of did that while I was going to college. And as I'm going to college, trying to figure out what I want to do, I've made some decisions about getting into local law enforcement first and seeing what that was like. So I became a police officer upon graduation, and I knew I wanted to be there. I just still hadn't really known for sure. Did I want to stay in the local level, which is great. It was a great experience and some great folks I met through the way. Or do I, decide to move into the federal, level? And so while I was a Newport police officer, King Hussein came to Newport. And so I was, at that time, I was a part of the department special response team, and which is like a SWAT team at that time, and we were tasked with helping the Secret Service be the uniform presence at the hotel. And so I got to talking to a couple of the agents, and I really liked the duality of the mission. I liked the investigations, and then I liked the protection. It seemed like there would never be a day of boredom, with those two things. And
Sure.
So I kind of like that, but yet I still wasn't committed yet. And so I went to talk to other federal agencies just to be sure, and I did. And I always kept coming back to the Secret Service. I like the smallness of the ranks. It's about 30. At the time, it must have been about 2,500 or so agents, I think, or something like that, as compared to other federal agencies, which are a lot bigger. I kind of like that smallness. And so then I made the decision to do it, and I started to apply. And it's certainly been a blessed career. I think I made the right decision. Had to move quite a bit, but it's been great. It really has.
Well,
so that's kind of it was kind of a process, and it started when I was in high school. And my wife always tells me, you're a little different because not too many folks know what they want to do. I said, well, I wasn't quite there in that younger age, but I got there, through talking to people and I tell that to I used to tell that to all the applicants to the Secret Service when I would interview them and speak to them. Don't look at us specifically. Certainly take a look at other agencies that you might have an interest in, and ask questions and things like that. So that's kind of what I did when I was that young, and it worked for me.
Well, that's great, Steve. I mean, it's always good to have a sense of what you want to do, and obviously you can change. But
Right.
You've had a stellar career in the career which you've selected, and now have moved as well into the private sector,
Sure.
providing the same types of protections in that arena. And so I just commend you
Thanks, Joe.
for that.
It's been great.
But I would like to, now I may be getting probative, and again, if I'm stepping out of bounds, I'm sure you'll let me know.
It's okay.
I would be interested in knowing, have you discussed two things? One, I noticed that you were on the protective team for then First Lady Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And I think also when she was senator or no?
Yes, I stayed with her for about a year and a half or so after she became
if you
senator.
can talk about that, and then any other assignments that you can speak of.
Yeah.
And and I do want us to talk about at some point the role and what occurred during last year's Boston Marathon. I think we can't leave this program without talking about that, particularly when we're in the season.
Sure.
So however you and whenever you want to talk about those three topics, you're on.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take the topic of quickly the Democratic National Convention, because that's something I'm very proud of, and standing with all the other law enforcement executives here. They did an outstanding job. You'd mentioned in your previous question about the relationships here in Boston, and is it rough and between the two agencies and things, or there was that atmosphere? Well, I can assure you it's not there now. I mean, folks collaborate together, they work together, they try to get problems resolved, and quite frankly, it was very evident during that marathon, bombing incident last year, and that tragic incident. So they work together. I mean, it's amazing, and collaborate together. And I think it had to do a lot of times we do in the past we had worked quite a bit together, and we knew each other. We knew the faces, And I always say this to my colleagues, my former colleagues in the Secret Service, that you need to make sure you get your business card out there, make sure you're speaking to those folks, the heads of the agencies, if you're the special agent in charge, and that, God forbid, there's another tragic incident, that you're not pulled together and it's the first time you're meeting. That is so important. Relationships are so important. So that was one thing that, in my career, that the DNC was a very high point. And also managing the First Lady detail. That was certainly a privilege, and it was challenging, to say the least. Secretary Clinton at that time, she traveled quite a bit, as she's done throughout her career, and so. But it was a privilege. I got a chance to visit many different countries with her. And it was a great experience. I enjoyed it very much.
And the role that you have, because you were the assistant and also you headed up her detail.
So,
would that take you? I mean, would you be point and front and center wherever and when?
I'd say I was front and center with her. That title, assistant to the special agent in charge, I was the supervisor in charge of her detail. So, it was, and then I had an assistant with me, and then I supervised over 20 agents that during her first run during the first Senate campaign in the late 90s. So, again, a privilege. I enjoyed it. Hard to be away from home. I won't not say that, but it was, the experience was outstanding. The security that I felt we provided her was outstanding, and we worked very well with her staff and her, and it went very well during that first campaign and things. So, and then I ended up staying with her while she moved on to the Senate, and again, another privilege. We traveled quite a bit back and forth from D.C. to New York based on her what she needed to do for her constituents and for the Senate, and another great experience too. It was very, seemed to go by pretty fast, quite honestly.
Let's move to the last year's Boston Marathon.
Sure.
And it was, like I said, I was in Hawaii at the time, and I couldn't feel more patriotic during the time, and more importantly, to be able to look at the TV and to know the players. And I remember I texted you while I was in Hawaii and said, "I see you there, Steve."
Yeah.
But to the extent you can, can you walk the audience through that whole involvement? We have the bombing on the day of the marathon and the subsequent days leading up to the capture and also all the events that occurred.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you my perspective and what I did, or what was going on around me, and kind of. So I was in my office on that Monday, the 15th, I believe it was, and you know, I had the TV on. I was watching a little bit of the Red Sox, kind of low and working, and one of my supervisors came into my office and said to me that we think there's a problem down at the marathon at the finish line. And I said, well, what's it about? And we started to get into it, and I turned on the TV, and then we started to talk about it. And so my first question was, I need to worry about my folks first, because I need to locate them. Are they running the race? Are a couple of them running the race? Are they down at the finish line watching? So I made an effort and assigned folks to kind of start digging in and finding out where our folks were.
When you say your folks, your agents?
Agents, yes, agents. And you know what, come to find out, we had some folks from other parts of the country that are Secret Service agents and employees that were running the race. So we ensured that they were taken care of, and we got them to safety and got them all accounted for. And then I get a call from the Boston police about, we've got another incident out at the JFK library. And there was an explosion out there, coincidentally, immediately following the tragic events down on Boylston Street. And so they asked, they were kind of short, and they asked, can you provide some agent support out there and investigate what's going on out there? So I got 2 supervisors and a team of agents, as well as an explosives expert, out to support the JFK library. And I just want to say too, I mean, the Secret Service was, you know, peripherally involved in the investigation, you know, with the marathon bombing, but we weren't the primary. We were just supporting the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the FBI has, which is made up of all different agencies, kind of like our Electronic Crimes Task Force, which is great. I mean, the partnerships are great that they have too as well. So, you know, again, in a support role, we went out to the JFK library and investigated that, and met a couple of Boston police officers out there, and it was deemed that it was some sort of electrical explosion and not relative or associated to what was going on down at the finish line. So once we established that, I had all the folks return, and then we kind of mustered up and went down to the Westin Hotel in support of the other agencies that were the primary investigators of the incident. And while there, I was with all the executives, the governor as well as the mayor. So it was a lot of collaborating. It was a lot of how can we help each other to get this resolved, and that's how it started, quite honestly, for me. And so what we did was we provided some technology to them if needed, and then we provided some manpower if needed. At that time, they were just trying to get their arms around the investigation and figuring it out, and it was very, like you said, kind of patriotic to watch, because everybody was in it to support the investigation, and you know, it reminds me of I was with some Harvard folks who were doing a study of leadership, Dr. Leonard Marcus and Dr. Barry Dorn, who have the MPLI out in Harvard, and it's a great leadership program they have, and they were studying leadership, and I've known them since the DNC, and how best to tackle these problems and issues, and they've created a document. It's called Swarm Intelligence, and it's interesting to see, and it was kind of right on target, because what it kind of says is that no one was out to take the blame or to give blame. There was a very great sense of collaboration, and quite honestly, for a time there, nobody was really the number one in charge. We were all working together in an effort to solve this, which is a lot of times doesn't happen, you know. But it happened here, and it happened during other large events here in Boston too. So it was good. So following that, getting back to, I'm digressing, but following that,
this is all background is always helpful.
Yeah.
In the sense to bring it.
So following that first night, you know, we on Tuesday, I think we got word that the president was considering coming to Boston to visit folks, and so I kind of had to wear a different hat at that point, and but yet maintain some connectivity with the investigation by placing an agent or 2 over in the command post of the investigation that the FBI was running, the JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, was running over there. If they needed help or they needed assistance, and they could keep us abreast of things going on, they would. And that's the way to do it, you know, putting somebody over there and being able to provide support and also communications back to me too. So So, preparing for the visit, for the President and First Lady's visit, and which went very well. And again, a lot of it was collaboration and things, and partnering with the other agencies to make that happen. And so, late Thursday or early Friday morning, I get a phone call of what was going on in Cambridge and Watertown, and then we got 40 agents out to Watertown that early morning, and along with armored vehicles in support of hunting for the suspect that was alive, and provided support out there to the other executives and their agencies. And I tell you, I'd never seen such collaboration, because I remember standing in the parking lot of the Arsenal Mall. I don't know, it was probably midday, and all of a sudden this huge truck and this trailer show up, and on the side of it, it's Port Authority, New York, NY Port Authority Police, and the guys get out of the truck and they open up the sides of the truck and start cooking hamburgers and hot dogs for all the.
Really? And
I spoke to one guy, and he says, one of the officers, he says, you know what, you guys did something similar to for us and supported us so much during 9/11 that we need to give back. So I mean, it was just unbelievable, and the staging of the agents and the police officers that were all ready to assist and support. I have to say that all the heads of the agencies there, Colonel Albin of the State Police, and Commissioner Davis, and Rick Delorier of the FBI, and a lot of folks, that were out there. Even the U.S. Marshal was out there in support. Yes. John Gibbons, yes. And Bruce Folkart, the SAC of DHS investigations, and the State Department was out there. So it was just an unbelievable amount, and the other uniformed law enforcement agencies. It was just a great effort.
Well, it was a great sight. I mean, and it even gets you welled up and just thinking about it. Those of us who have lived through it and watched it, and certainly you were there.
Right.
But what I found interesting as it unfolded, and we didn't talk about that other sector involvement, and that's the private sector, because it was private sector's cameras who had captured suspects, which helped with the investigation to the extent you can. Can we talk about how that unfolded?
It's hard to talk about that a little bit, because it's currently in adjudication, and so I probably shouldn't speak about any type of evidence. Well, then I'll just mention, and obviously for the viewing audience, those who watched the newscast as I did, I probably didn't get as much of a tan as I would have had I not stayed inside. That's right, glued to the TV, watching what was unfolding. Right.
But as you can recall, there was images were captured because of cameras that were on private businesses that were in and around Boylston Street, and to a large extent that was helpful in terms of our law enforcement personnel being able to capture the suspects, in terms of one, locate and to fatally shoot one, and now the other suspect is going through the judicial process. So again, the private sector played a role in this as well, in terms of this cooperation, this collegiality that you're talking about, Steve. They played it as well.
Yeah.
We talked about your involvement with the First Lady, and I know, having been provided the opportunity by you to attend different events here where the President was in town and had an opportunity. In fact, I even got star power because folks saw me greeting President Barack Obama. But can you talk about what it's like to protect the President of these United States?
Yeah, it's a big responsibility that we don't take lightly, that's for sure. And it's a privilege too. So it's a lot of responsibility. I can remember when I was a new agent on the President's detail, a newer agent, being tasked with the responsibility of being a lead advance agent, which means that I go overseas in advance of the President, take a team of agents, and work with the embassy and the foreign ministries folks, and you're dealing with the ambassador and his number 2 person and some high-level country foreign ministry folks, and representing the President, the Office of the President, and representing obviously the Secret Service. So it's a huge responsibility that's not taken lightly, I assure you. And it's so it's a great it's a great experience, quite honestly, and it's a task that you need to step up to and ensure that everywhere he goes, or the family goes, or the vice president, whatever our protectees, that it's safe and that the environment's safe and that we're providing security for him. So, you know, when you first asked me that question, that's the first thing I think of. It's a huge responsibility, and I was amazed at what you represent when you go over there, and then you just kind of do it. You do what you're taught, you do what you're trained. How you're trained is very important. The Secret Service trains quite a bit, extensively. When we're not doing what we're doing normally. But
well, I know you went to the international, and if you can we talk about a domestic? Take, for instance, when you were special agent, when the president came for several things, he came on behalf of the governor, Governor Deval Patrick on occasions.
Sure.
He came here to present at the school in Dorchester, where you were kind enough to invite my wife and me. And he came when he spoke about the healthcare issues at Faneuil Hall.
Right.
And those are instances.
Not to mention Martha's Vineyard.
And Martha's Vineyard, where that gets back to my water opening, where that thing's going in the water.
Right.
Can you talk about what Secret Service has to do when the president makes that type of visit?
It takes a solid week, a little bit over sometimes, to prepare for that type of visit. So you're working with the presidential staff. You're also working with the local staff folks here from the representatives if they're visiting to see the governor, or you're working with his staff. So not only that, it takes a lot of planning and preparation and meetings with all the local, state and local law enforcement agencies. So immediately there's a meeting where we kind of get on the same page right at the outset of the week before, 7 days or so before, where we kind of get on the same page, and we partner with the other law enforcement agencies and try to keep them informed as to what's going on, and marry them up. We call it a counterpart system, with an agent from the DC and an agent from the Boston area, marry up with for instance, the state police who would be doing the motorcades and things, are helping us with the motorcades. We would marry them all up, and they would be collaborating together to ensure that the motorcades, and planning the motorcade too, quite honestly. Everything is choreographed. I mean, right down to when he steps off the plane, everything is very, very, very specifically choreographed as to what the president's doing and how we're providing that security.
And interesting enough, I've been in places, as I've just indicated, when the president has been here. I can recall when President Clinton was at certain events where I've had to attend, and also when the vice president was here, and we had an event around the empowerment zones here in Boston during 1994, I believe it was, and they came in because that was one of the major initiatives for the Clintons. And I mean, I saw, I thought folks were carrying a golf bag and doing different things, but they were about their business, doing what they do to protect those high-level officials that you mentioned.
Right.
And am I correct in saying that the president's car travels with him wherever he goes?
Yes, you are correct. When wherever the president goes, we do transport the vehicles, be it overseas, be it to St. Louis or Seattle, wherever it goes. Those vehicles come in a few days in advance, and the drivers are acclimated to their motorcade routes and meeting the state police counterparts or the other local police counterparts, and they're looking at all the sites. It is very much, again, going back to choreographing, it's very much planned, and so we do travel with the president's vehicles wherever he goes, as well as the First Lady too, for the most part. Yeah.
I'm going to go to break in a moment because I want to have to give our sponsors their due. But I want to, when we come back, I'd like to talk about two things I know are near and dear to you. One is, how would one be able to participate or become a Secret Service agent on either side, protective or on the investigative side, and the other things that the Secret Service does. And the other, and what are some of the qualifications?
Yeah.
And then the other I'd like to do is, I know there's a nonprofit that's near and dear to you.
Yes, there it is.
And I want to make sure we get enough time in order to talk about that as well.
That'd be great.
And then we'll wrap it up and to go. But Got to keep the sponsors happy, and so I want to do that because they are our lifeblood. So we'll be back in a moment. Doing It for Diane, Stoughton Food Pantry fundraiser on Friday, May 2nd from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Portuguese National Club. Light fare, dinner and dessert, entertainment and cash bar. You get a discount if you come in and pay in advance. It's $20 in advance, $25 at the door. And if you want to learn more about the event, you can look at their website, which is www.doingitfordiane.org. NAMI Walks. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is having a walk Saturday, May 10th of this year at DCR, which is the Department of, I forgot what it is right now, but in any event, it's one of the state agencies' parks at Artesamo Park on Soldiers Field Road in Brighton. And that's a walk to raise awareness about mental illness and to stop the stigma. If you want to learn more about the walk, you can look at the website, www.namiwalks.org/Massachusetts, or call Karen Gromas at 617-580-8541. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen. And they're located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton at 781-341-1662. Stop by. They have great food, and we have it here at every program. American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. And if you have time and are willing, you can reach them at 1-800-ACS-6662, or you can check out their website at www.cancer.org. Ilse Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market are located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. And for more information, you can call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels can also use your assistance in driving food to patients who are homebound. And if you're interested and have the time, ask for Jessica, and you can reach Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business, and you can place your ad with the Penny Saver at they're located at 27 Rose Glen Street here in Stoughton, and you can call and reach them at 781-344-4833. International Forum Show, where we look to interview guests with local roots throughout the world via Skype. And I know Roy Cohen has really want you to assist us in this. Many of you are traveling abroad. We'd like to have a conversation with you or even your young children who are traveling to places abroad, doing a study abroad. We'd love to be able to talk to them in the countries where they are. And we get an opportunity to air the program on Sundays, 8:30 p.m., Mondays at 11 p.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., Thursdays at 9:30 p.m., and Saturday at 12 noon on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. Foley's Backstreet 5K, second annual 5K road race to benefit the Mass Hospital School. It will be held on Sunday, May 4th. Start and finish the Mass Hospital School on or at 3 Randolph Street in Canton. For more information, call 781-297-0100. Stoughton Farmers Market, located at Trackside Plaza next to the railroad station. It will be on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., rain or shine. It's a nonprofit, volunteer run, and has four farms, 2 bakeries, and more. Live music as well. So come on out. Let's support our Stoughton Farmers Markets on Saturdays. My favorite program, Community Forum. Showtimes in Stoughton are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. Comments and suggestions are welcomed, and you can contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. We also air in our neighboring community, the town of Easton, on Mondays at 9 p.m., Tuesdays at 8 a.m., Wednesdays at 3 p.m., Saturdays at 10 a.m. on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 22. And as well, we would like your comments and suggestions on programming or on prior programs. And you can reach us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Well, we're now back, and again, as I said at the top of the program, my guest is Stephen Ricciardi, the former special agent in charge for the Secret Service here in Boston. He is now for the Boston region, and he is now going into the private sector, but he has a long history of involvement serving our government and us in a meaningful way, and I've just enjoyed the time that we've spent thus far talking about the Secret Service, his career, and certainly the type of local events that have occurred here, and even the tragedies which occurred at the Boston Marathon last year. But I want to continue with you, Steve. I want to talk about just shifting a little bit, because the great career that you've had with the Secret Service could be an opportunity for someone out there in the viewing audience who says, wow, I didn't even know that the Secret Service did that. I didn't know that they had something more than even, I may not want to do protective service, but what are the other types of career opportunities that can be attained through the Secret Service? Sure,
great question. So I encourage everybody that has an interest to go to secretservice.gov on the intranet. That is a great resource and really talks about what the Secret Service does and some of the different jobs and opportunities that they have available. Really, for somebody interested, you'd have to go to usajobs.gov, and there are postings constantly about different federal jobs and things which the Secret Service puts the postings there, but in order to get into the Secret Service, you have to have a 4-year degree, college degree. It doesn't happen to be in a specific area, although I always recommend to folks that are future applicants, you need to at least minor in computer science and have a little bit of a background of computers, because everything, nowadays is computers and cell phones and all sorts of different things. So, that is very good to have, because some of our investigations, quite honestly, and most of them have a nexus to electronics or computers or cell phones and things like that. So to have a good basis, a good understanding, either a minor or, quite frankly, even a major too, in computer science. Most folks come to us with different backgrounds, which I love, and I like that about the agency. You don't have to come from a law enforcement background. We have folks that are business degrees, teaching degrees, also computer degrees, criminal justice degrees, all sorts, psychology, all sorts of different backgrounds. So, and I think that's healthy. I think that makes an agency strong, giving those different perspectives, giving those different points of view. So you have to have that. Then you've got to go through and take the exam, special agents exam. And then you've got to go through a series of interviews, panel interviews, as well as an extensive background investigation, and a polygraph exam as well to be part of the Secret Service. And we're always looking for applicants that have the interest in the Secret Service. We're always looking for good qualified applicants. One of the other things that's very important to us is we like folks to come not just fresh out of college. We like them to have a history, an employment history, 3 to 4 years or so, something in that range is something we look at to see what their employment has been since leaving college. We also have a uniform division of the Secret Service, which doesn't require a college degree, but a lot of times folks that have the degree and there's no openings for agents, they decide to go into the uniform division of the Secret Service, which is based in Washington, which has a lot of different facets about it, interesting facets. There's, you know, it's a uniform position with full police powers in the District of Columbia. So there's sometimes you're patrolling that area and supporting and backing up the Metro, the DC Metro Police. But also there's, again, specific jobs that are involved in the magnetometer teams, the K-9 teams, the counter sniper teams that are involved in the protection of the president and some of our other protectees. So there's a lot of different facets to that, interesting facets to that job, to maybe come onto the uniform division for a few years and then make the move to the agent's position. Sometimes that happens too. But not necessarily. I mean, you don't have to get into the uniform division to be ultimately a special agent. So that's really it. We try to aggressively recruit. In the last few years, it's been kind of slow due to the budgetary issues and things, unfortunately. But I'm sure at some point, and it's probably already started to pick up a little bit too. So if folks have a degree and they've got about 2 or 3 years as in a job and they've got this interest, I highly encourage to take a look at it. It's great work. It's work that you can certainly be proud of and you can contribute to. I always tell that to the agents. I mean, they are certainly, no matter if it's a site agent or whatever you're doing, I mean, you are contributing to the safety and the protection of our folks, or a sensitive and criminal investigation. I mean, they're very important, that's for sure.
Just want to clarify on two things. One is the designation special agent only on the protective side or throughout the agency?
Well, special agent is a investigative role. You're going to investigate, a criminal investigator.
Yes.
So the uniform division would be more of a patrol, and but also assisting investigations too. They do have they do assist. If you kind of equate it to a police department, there's a detective division, and then there's a uniformed patrol division, that type of, with all these different entities within the patrol division. You know, a SWAT team, whatever it would be for the department. So kind of equate it like that.
Could you give out those websites again that they would check? Just
yeah,
so we can post them up just so someone can write it down again.
It's usajobs.gov, and then it's secretservice.gov. If you were to go and Google those, you know, you'd certainly come up with those.
And we only have a few minutes left, and I definitely want to give your favorite charity or nonprofit, the opportunity. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
And thank you for that, Joe. It's a great group. It's called Crossroads for Kids, and it actually has a function going on April 30th at the Boston Harbor Hotel at 5:30, the Urban Campfire event. And you'd get a chance, if you were to come, anybody to come, you'd get a chance to meet the kids and meet the board members and just see what it's all about. And what it's all about is giving folks that are kids that don't quite have a good opportunity around them, giving them a great opportunity. And what Crossroads does, it provides leadership training and ensures that they are on a road of mentoring and helps them make decisions, some very difficult decisions in their life by talking about college and exposing them to college and all sorts of different aspects of leadership and helping them grow in that way. And you know, what really drew me to this charity or this nonprofit was the results. It gets results. I've seen it. 100% of the kids that are involved in the program, is about 1,000. All the Boston area, it serves about 125 towns and cities throughout the area. 100% of them go and graduate high school that are in the program. 93% are accepted to college. So if that's not results, I don't know what is. So it's a great, and has a great mission. It inspires kids to unlock their potential and positively impact the world. So I'm very thrilled about being a part of it, being part of the board, and it does some terrific things for folks that that don't have so many good things.
And when is that event again?
So it's April 30th. It's Wednesday at the Boston Harbor Hotel. It's called the Urban Campfire. It's at 5:30 to 7:30. It's just a cocktail hour, and it's just getting to know the folks. It's no hard pressure sells or anything like that. It's just getting to know the program and meeting some of the folks associated with the program. It's a nice event.
If one wanted to get more information, you may not have it now.
I don't have it now, but I'll get it to you if that.
But
yeah.
if they Googled Crossroads for
They'll
Kids, they would find out more information on the event.
You bet. If you Google Crossroads for Kids and looked under Urban Campfire, you'd certainly get the information on it, further information.
Well, Steve, I mean, what I would like to say to the audiences, to our viewing audiences, we met first around the tables of the breakfast group with Kevin Phelan, and which has an assembly of you and former head of the FBI and Davis and others were all part of that group. And we had many spirited conversations around that table. And again, just getting to know you during that particular setting and just what you've mentioned here. I mean, just the sensitivity, you looked at your own career, but as well trying to be a bridge to help these young people through this the Crossroads for Kids is just another illustration of the type of band that you are as well. And I've seen you execute at some of those your official tasks as the special agent in charge when the president has been here, and you have been great to my family in those instances as well. And giving me star power by being able to shake the president's hand and do different things. So again, I personally want to thank you on behalf of that. But as we close, you know, and we're winding down, is there anything that you would like to end the program with? Any message you'd like to leave for the viewing audience?
Well, you know, I mean, I think you know, and it's this season of reflecting a little bit on the marathon, and I just was always amazed of the city's resiliency of not only the law enforcement, how they came together and really did an outstanding job in not only investigating but collaborating to hunt down the suspect. But I think about the citizens of Boston and how they came together and how resilient they are and how we stick together, and it's just to me it was just something to see, and it was it was a lot of tragedy, and within the tragedy came some light, you know, and the light for me was the resiliency and how folks came together and stayed together, and you know, are not willing to stand for these type of actions.
Well, we certainly have come together. We have the One Fund, and that's going well. Much will happen next Monday at the marathon this year. But again, Steve, I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to wish you well in your new position. Our friendship shall continue.
Of course.
But again, thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for appearing on Community Forum. Thank you by honoring me by being my guest on the program.
It's my honor, Joe, and thank you for having me. You were great. Appreciate it.